Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Are you guys staying warm out there? I think today is going to be the first day where we're finally seeing 30s to mid 40s. So we're finally getting out of the teens to the 20s weather, and I am so glad, but I am still so cold right now. So now, being in the middle of January, I've come to notice that this is a really slow month. It's been more of like a reflective time for me. I've been doing a lot more journaling, doing things indoors, and I wanted to do a journaling video for you guys. This is the journal that I created. This was actually from a gift that my sister given me for Christmas, and it's just a cookie box. You can see all the cookies. My favorite part about the cookie box was actually the cover, because it had like this really cute image of a girl on the tin can box. When she gave it to me, I knew this was going to be the journal for 2024, if not one of them. So it's definitely something that was part of my goals for 2024, was to start journaling more, and I wanted to go ahead and get an art journal started. So with the light of no spend, you can't buy art journals, but it's always really fun to make it, and it's super easy. And if you did want to get an art journal started, you can easily do things with your household items. A lot of these things that I've put in my art journal you can consider junk or recycled things. And the beauty about art journals is that you can really make it into whatever you want it to. You don't necessarily have to buy products to make something really pretty. The best part about this is that I love that it looks like it can just, you can just throw this away. But if you've ever seen art journals and they're so pretty and you just don't want to ruin them, it's really hard to motivate yourself to do anything on a journal spread that already has it decorated. And because this is not as decorated, it's really easy for me to just kind of do whatever I want and not have to feel the pressure to make something really pretty. And it's, and it doesn't have to be really pretty. From what I remember, this concept was something that was done more than a decade ago by one of my favorite YouTubers. Her name is Jenny Belly. And when she came out with her content, I literally consumed every single one of them. And it was just so inspiring to be able to reuse and to repurpose things, papers. And that was where it kind of took off for me, once I started finding YouTube channels that really inspired me to make things. I felt like I was more free to do art in the form of an art journal, because it was for you. It wasn't necessarily made for somebody else. And but this is just an example of what you can do with an art journal, or how to make one. So we're going to go ahead and talk about how to get this done. So let's go ahead and get started on this video, and I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so here is what my book cover looked like before I made any changes to it. Now, you can use any box for your book cover as long as it's made of chipboard, like a cereal box, but you just want to make sure that the box you're using is not corrugated, because those don't last very long. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just cutting it down the middle as evenly as I can, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Now, this journal is pretty big. It measures roughly 12 by 16, but you can use any size that you're comfortable with. And because there's a big hole in the middle, we're going to reinforce the cover as much as possible. And normally, if you're working with a cereal box, you'll be folding the flaps down from the top as well, which makes the board a lot more sturdy. But because the cover only has the side flaps, we're just going to glue this down and reinforce the edges. So my trick to adhering anything thicker than paper, like cardstock, is a combination of dry and wet glue so that it stays down. Here I'm going to be using double-sided tape and a glue stick. And I'm only going to have my travel bag with me, so I'm working with limited supplies. But you can also use liquid glue like tacky glue or Elmer's glue instead of a glue stick. But honestly, I think glue sticks are a little bit easier to work with because they're not messy. They dry faster, and they're also great for travel because you can take them on a plane. So if I ever run out of glue sticks this year, this is definitely considered an essential for me that I would replace. But we're definitely going to go through our stash first before considering buying anything in particular, like a glue stick. So now once we adhere the flaps over on itself, we are going to compile our folios for our art journal. And now that we have our book cover, we're going to put that aside, and then we're going to start working on our pages. So here is just a gift box that I'm just cutting up any excess that we don't need, and I'm just folding it evenly in half. And you can fold it any way that you want. I'm just taking off any tape just so that anything that we put down on these book pages are going to be a little bit easier to stick down as long as it's clean. And here we have one of my favorite sources of paper that you can have that you probably have lying around at your house. Brown paper bags are probably the best free alternative to cardstock if you don't have any of those in your stash. And it honestly doesn't even matter if it's ripped or if it looks messed up in any way. You're gonna end up decorating it anyways. And here I'm just trying to cut them to size so that it'll fit my journal. So what I do is I'm just cutting them in halves of the pages, so that way I can have as big of a book page as I can in my journals also. So brown paper bags are really, really useful in that sense because they really are big papers that are really, really good for a lot of different things. And any extra scraps of brown papers that you have from that paper bag, you can also keep for any other decorations that you want to use. Now I'm just sorting through the rest of the pile, and these were just papers that I've collected from Christmas, and I actually got a lot. So whether it's gift bags or, cookie bags from Starbucks, you can really use any kinds of papers for your art journal. And I'm just kind of sorting through what I want to keep or what I want to put as the book pages for them. So a lot of paper bags are really, really useful in that sense. And you can definitely use cardstock if you have them, but paper bags are really, really good. What you do want to use if you are going to be using repurposed items is that you want to choose matte papers, something that are not shiny or it doesn't have glitter. You can also use gift wrapping paper. Like this one is a vintage wrapping paper that was pretty thick and it's matte on one side, which is great because matte paper are really, really porous. I was only, however, able to just use one of those wrapping papers because the other one was too ripped. And this one, for example, was a little bit smaller, but I tried to maximize all the pages that I possibly could get out of it. And it doesn't really matter if the pages that you have are not uniform, you just want to use whatever you have. Once I'm done piling up all of my folios, I'm just going to divide them evenly into different signatures. Now, the signatures is what we are going to be binding into the book. And you can just divide all of the papers that you have evenly, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but you just want to make it so that you have enough folios in each signature that are even. In this instance, I've had 10 folios in one signature and 9 in the other because one of the wrapping papers were too ripped to include as a folio. So we're just going to go with it, and I'm just going to use that extra paper for any collaging that I'm going to be using on that journal. Now we have our book coming together, and I am going to be binding them with a couple things. You just need an awl or a pokey tool, a thread, and you definitely would want a needle if you have one, but in this instance I didn't have a needle with me, so I'm just going to use what I have. But once I put those signatures down into my book, I realized that my book cover really needed some reinforcement. So I'm just going to be collaging the inside of the book with a Fearless flyer from Trader Joe's and some extra wrapping paper that I thought was really cute also that I saved. Now this one I didn't want to use for a book page because it was a little bit too thin. So in this instance, I'm just going to be using it for what I'll be doing in my journal, which is a lot of collaging. And this is also how you can add reinforcement to any page or any book cover that is not thick enough. So for the stitching, we are going to do a simple 3-hole stitch, and surprise surprise, I didn't have a ruler with me, but we are just going to eyeball it. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to mark lines on the spine of the book where we're going to make our holes to stitch our signatures to the cover. So I'm just using this piece of cardboard as my ruler, but what we're going to do is we're going to mark the spine into half, and then after we get the half, we are going to quarter that half. So we're going to make a mark on the halfway mark of that half, and we're also going to make 2 dots on that line for the holes of where our signatures are going to be bounded to. So I started to poke my signature with the owl through the middle hole and through the cover, but then I realized that I didn't have my thread ready yet and my wax linen wasn't strong enough. So I'm using this twine here for my stitching. And what I normally do is I just measure the length of the journal and I double that, and I just did 2 of those so that I can have that ready for the other signature. But how I'm normally binding this signature is through the inside and middle hole of the signature, and that's going to go through the pages and through the back cover, and it's going to go through the back, and we're going to bind it through the top hole and through the pages, and it's going to go down, and we're going to go back down through that middle hole. And you can see that I used the wax linen as the needle to pull that twine through those pages because it wouldn't have been able to go through it by itself. So now I'm going back through the bottom, and it's going to just go in through the inside of the signature, and that's where we are going to tie that knot a few times just to secure those pages down. Now, a good way to remember this method is by thinking of the figure 8, and this will definitely get easier over time if you do want to bind your own art journal. But a tip that I have to make this a little bit easier for you is to make a template with another piece of paper where you can put your holes where you want them to go for your signatures and for your spine as well. Here I didn't really use one, so you can see that at the top of my book my signatures aren't really aligned perfectly with each other, which is totally okay because I still really like it. But this is what the final product looks like, and I'll just go through a really quick flip through of what's inside and what the pages look like. But you can even see that I poked a hole through another part of the spine, but it's all good. And after this, I'll just go ahead and wrap it up, and we are done with our art journal. Now, the intention for this journal is obviously an art journal, but I don't want to have too many journals to be carrying around, and I also have a lot already, and I'll show that to you another time. But I do want to kind of just document a lot of my no spend year here. If I have any inspiration to do a spread, I'll be doing this here. If I'm doing a trip, I might consider doing a smaller journal to take with me, and maybe do like a collage of a trip on one of the pages. I do like to use different journals for a lot of different things, but this year I kind of wanted to minimize and simplify everything a little bit more for myself. So I'm just going to have this as a catch-all journal for all of my art needs, journaling, collaging, all of that stuff. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you are going to be art journaling, definitely comment. Let me know if you are. I will probably do some journaling spreads. And stay tuned for more videos about art journaling and possibly getting some spreads done together. if you're into that, I do have some journal prompts that I'm probably going to be working on in case I need some motivation or inspiration to do any of the pages. And if you don't already art journal, I hope you join me. It's definitely going to be a fun adventure, and we can go through different prompts as to like how to get started on art journaling. And if you do art journal, I hope you got something useful out of this video. But other than that, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Bye. And one of the things that I did enjoy about this was that it had this really, really cool image. I was flipping through my book the other day, and I literally just saw an image of the Breakfast Club from this. So it just makes me love this even more.